a 7-year-old and then shot her and killed her.
You have judges that let him out, should never have let him out. You have a district attorney who gave him bail. Why would you give somebody bail who has this kind of a history?
On Wednesday morning, the Clark County Sheriff's Office got a call from someone who was walking on this rural road in Washougal. The caller described what they believed to be two life-sized mannequins down an embankment near a creek. But when deputies arrived on scene, they discovered two bodies.
A 6-year-old girl climbs into a car she's been in 100 times before. The man driving has taken her to school most mornings. She trusts him like a father. In her arms, she's holding her kitten, a little thing named Rocky, and she has no idea that her mama is already gone, sitting dead in the seat right next to her. Let me tell you something. By the time this is over, you're going to be asking the same question her whole family is still asking today. Why was this man ever free to do it? Because this man had done something like this before, in another state, years earlier, to another person. And every single time the system had a chance to stop him, it opened the door and let him walk right back out. This is the story of Misha Melendez, her baby girl Ela, and how they slipped through every crack that was supposed to keep them safe. Misha Melendez was 27 years old, and that little girl was her whole world. A single mama out in Vancouver, Washington, raising a bright, happy 6-year-old named Ela. The two of them used to make TikToks together, silly little dances, the kind of clips a proud mother posts because her kid is the best thing she ever made. Misha said once that she didn't even know how she got blessed with a daughter. That amazing. Ela was doing good in school. She loved cats. She had a whole life waiting on her, and everybody around her could see it. And Misha was independent, had her own apartment, her own life, her own family that loved her hard. A mother, a sister, a brother, all of them close. So understand this. She was not the type to just up and vanish without a word. Not this woman. So when a whole week went by, no call, no text, nothing, her mama knew. Deep down, she knew. Something was wrong. Now, the man at the center of all this was named Kirkland Warren, Misha's ex-boyfriend, and their relationship had been rocky from the jump, on again, off again, and far from gentle. But Kirkland, he had a story ready for anybody who asked. Said the two of them were working things out. Said they'd spent that last night together at a friend's place, and everything was just fine. But to really understand who Kirkland Warren was, you got to go back to where he came from. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Son of a municipal judge, and even that judge resigned back in 2009 under a cloud of misconduct allegations. Forgery, abuse of office, attempted theft. Anyways, that's the tree this man fell from. Eventually, Kirkland made his way out west to Vancouver, married a woman named Meshay, had kids with her. On paper, regular life, regular family. But the marriage was falling apart, and what was going on underneath it was anything but regular. See, Monet worked at a bank over in Portland, and in the months before Misha went missing, Monet got accused of stealing, moving money out of customers' accounts that wasn't hers, sending it off to other people, almost $25,000. And one of those transfers, $20,000 of it, landed in an account under a name you already know, Misha Melendez. Now hold on, let me make this make sense. Misha and Monet, the ex-girlfriend and the wife, two women who, far as anybody could tell, had no business even knowing each other. And yet, there's surveillance footage of Misha opening up an account at that same credit union and climbing right out of Moni's car to do it. So these two were connected, tangled up in something together, and the only thread tying them was one man. And when the police sat Moni down and asked her about it, she didn't blink. She told them she changed those account details for her husband, that Kirkland told her to help him steal. There's one more piece that fits right here, and it's a quiet one, but it tells you something. Misha was active on TikTok, posting, dancing, living her life. Right up until December 20th, 2022, and then she went dark. No more posts. And that silence lined up almost perfect with those thefts at the credit union. Like she suddenly understood she had a reason to stay out of sight. And in her very last two videos, same face standing right there next to her. Kirkland Warren. Now their relationship wasn't just rocky, it was dangerous. And this time, there was a paper trail to prove it. That December before, Misha had called 911, told the police Kirkland put his hands on her, said he fired shots at her balcony window while she was standing there looking outside. And come February, investigators backed her up. A friend who was there that night confirmed the whole thing. And then, 2 weeks later, Misha took it all back. She recanted, said she lied about the shooting, said her and her friend both had mental health and substance problems, and she asked the police to please promise her Kirkland wouldn't get arrested. She tore down her own credibility, piece by piece, and begged them to leave the man alone. Now, if you know anything about how these situations work, that right there is not a sign of innocence. That's a red flag waving in your face. And thank God, the police treated it like one. March 2nd, they arrested him anyway. Domestic violence assault, drive-by shooting, making a false statement, harassment, possession of a stolen firearm. The prosecutor stood up and called him an extreme danger to Misha's safety. And here's the part you need to sit with. On a danger scale that only went up to 18, this man scored a 31. Read that again, 31 out of 18. The judge set bail at $100,000 and put a no-contact order in place. So now Misha's protected, right? On paper. Within hours, Kirkland called her from that jail. Twice. Told her she was the reason he got locked up and that he needed her to make these charges disappear. And she told him she was trying her best. He got released on bail that same day. They cited him for violating the order. Higher bail and GPS monitoring. Got ordered on March 6th. And then March 7th rolls around. The case gets dismissed. And that GPS monitor never got put on him. Not once.
They're not protected. DV has never really been taken seriously. The restraining orders are false security blankets. He was released with no GPS in the first.
So let me say it plain. A man who scored a 31 out of 18 for danger walked out free, untracked, with the woman he terrorized still in arm's reach. And what almost nobody in Vancouver knew yet, what was sitting there in another state waiting, was that this same soft-spoken man was already wanted for murder. So here's how that last morning went. It was March 12th. Misha and Kirkland had spent the night at a friend's apartment, a woman named Jo. And the reason they were staying there, instead of at one of their own places, was that no contact order. Kirkland said it himself. He wasn't trying to get caught violating it, so they hid out at Jo's. Around 5 in the morning, the two of them left the apartment, said they were going out to make some money. Now sit with that for a second. 5 a.m. Going to make some money. Okay. A few hours later, around 8, Kirkland pulled back up to Jo's house, music blasting loud out the car. Misha was in the passenger seat, but something was off. She was naked from the waist down, and she wasn't moving. She looked passed out. Jo leaned in to turn that loud music down, and Kirkland snapped at her, told her to close the car door. And see, Jo didn't think nothing was wrong. She didn't know. So she did the most ordinary thing in the world. She handed Ela over to him, and she handed Ela's little kitten, Rocky, over too, and Kirkland drove off. Let me tell you something. By the time that little girl got in that car, her mama was already dead in the seat beside her. Ela trusted this man. He took her to school. He was the closest thing to a father in that child's everyday life. So when she climbed in, holding her kitten, she had no reason to be scared, no idea what was coming. And the prosecutor would later say something about that kitten that I want you to hear word for word. Because Ela had Rocky right there with her, in the car, at the end. And the prosecutor said this: It's our hope that Rocky was the last thing that she saw at the time in which she passed this earth. A 6-year-old holding her cat, hoping that's the last gentle thing she knew. Sit with that one. I'll wait. Now, Misha and Ela got reported missing on March 18th. 6 days after that morning, the Vancouver police did a welfare check on Misha's apartment. Nothing. No sign of her, no sign of the baby. But the next day, Misha's mama, out there searching for her daughter and granddaughter herself, not waiting on nobody, she found Misha's car, abandoned, sitting in the Van Mall neighborhood. Same neighborhood where Misha and Ela had stayed with Kirkland. And Kirkland? He had a story for that too. Said he dropped Misha and Ela off at her own car down the street, let them out, and they drove away. Said that was the last time he ever saw them alive. Said he tried calling her later that day, not on a regular phone, mind you, on a Google Duo, and she just wasn't picking up. But he said it wasn't a big concern at first. Figured she was just ignoring him for a little while. His ex didn't answer for a few days. To him, that was normal. Okay. Now the police already had Kirkland on their radar on account of that no contact order. So on March 19th, they took him into custody for violating it. And that arrest? That gave them the door they needed. A chance to sit this man down and ask him about Misha and Ela.
Hey, show me your hands. It's the police. Put your hands on top of your head and release your fingers.
Listen, you are under arrest for a violation, okay? Do you understand? If you do not obey commands, force may be used against you. Do you understand?
And let me tell you, watching that interview, Kirkland played it cool, soft-spoken, helpful even. Started pointing fingers other directions. Suggested maybe Misha's ex-husband had something to do with it. But the police had already been to the ex-husband. Misha and Ela weren't there. And unlike Kirkland, that man didn't have a no-contact order hanging over his head. Kirkland kept on painting himself as a decent dude. A man trying to do better. Said he'd never run from his one other case. Always showed up to court on time. Never got in trouble. Said this was the most trouble he'd been in since. But that right there was a lie. Because there was something the investigators already knew about Kirkland Warren. Something that turned him from a person of interest into something a whole lot heavier. The detective asked him real simple. Where'd you live before here? Arkansas. Kirkland Warren didn't leave Arkansas because he was chasing the West Coast sunshine. He ran. He ran from a murder case. Back in November 2017, a 57-year-old man named Curtis Urquhart went missing in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And on December 11th, 3 men found Curtis's body lying in a ditch. He'd been shot in the head. His body had been out there so long it was mutilated by wildlife. And the last person Curtis was seen with walking out of a law office on November 27th, a 22-year-old Kirkland Warren. So the police brought him in, and Kirkland admitted it. He admitted he killed Curtis. But here's what really tells you who you're dealing with. That same December, his Google search history came back. And you want to know what this man was typing into a search bar? How to get blood out of a car seat, how to beat murder, killing the only witness, other ways to get away with murder. Make it make sense. His story was that he and Curtis drove around together, and Curtis started demanding money from him, and he got scared for his life. So he reached under the seat, pulled out a handgun, and shot Curtis in the head. Then he dumped the body in a ditch and drove off. He got charged with first-degree murder and abuse of a corpse. And then, get this, they released him. $250,000 bond. And somewhere between 2018 and 2020, instead of sitting still and answering for it, Kirkland Warren packed up and moved clear across the country to Washington State. And he didn't slow down out there. In 2020, Vancouver police looked into him for having a stolen semi-automatic handgun. He surrendered that one, but the next March, he lied on an application to buy another one. Said he wasn't under indictment for a felony, which was a flat-out lie. That application got denied, but somehow, some way, this man still got his hands on a gun, because by December 2022, he was using one to fire at Misha's balcony window. So let me lay it all out for you. The murder charge in Arkansas? Still open, still pending. And now, a mother and her baby girl were missing, and his name was sitting right in the middle of it. And then the timeline tightens up like a fist. March 17th, 2023. The day before Misha and Ela were even reported missing, an Arkansas judge revoked Kirkland's bail in the Curtis Urquhart murder. The walls were already closing in on him from 1,000 miles away. 5 days later, on March 22nd, two things happened. He stood in a courtroom, admitted he was wanted back in Arkansas, but refused to waive extradition, so the judge ordered him held without bail. And that very same day, somebody walking down a rural road out in Washougal looked down an embankment near a creek. They saw what they thought were two life-sized mannequins lying down there. They called it in. They weren't mannequins.
On Wednesday morning, the Clark County Sheriff's Office got a call from someone who was walking on this rural road in Washougal. The caller described what they believed to be two life-sized mannequins down an embankment near a creek. But when deputies arrived on scene, they discovered two bodies. Investigators contacted Vancouver police, who determined this was likely Misha Melendez and
two bodies down that embankment near the creek. The deputies got there and confirmed what the caller couldn't bring himself to believe. It was Misha Melendez and her daughter Ela, both of them killed by gunshot wounds to the head. Misha shot once, Ela shot twice, and that baby had been assaulted, shot in the head, left in a ditch. Now where have we heard that before? So the investigators took this, all of it, back into the room with Kirkland, and they gave him every chance. The detective leaned in, told him he wasn't there to judge him, told him a man who made a mistake isn't the same as a monster, and Kirkland answered him back, plain as day. I'm not a monster. Said he made his mistakes in the past, but he would not say what happened to that baby. Just kept saying he didn't know where they were, said he'd been calling and calling. The detective told him straight up, I was there. I was at the scene. I know what road you were off of. I know why there's mud on your car. I know why there's tire tracks down that little road. He told him people just wanted to know why. That a man could at least give the family that peace. And Kirkland, done talking, asked for his attorney. And that was that. But see, he didn't need to talk. The evidence was already doing it for him. Let me run it down for you. March 13th and 15th, Kirkland was texting a friend, asking if she knew any secluded spots, woods, somewhere he could bury a gun. That same week, he transferred $4,200 out of Misha's bank account into his own. Used her own phone to do it. March 18th, he texted somebody, I need to get rid of this stool. And stool, that's slang for a stolen car. That Dodge Charger they were last seen in. So they searched that Charger, and inside, shell casings, a big blue tarp, and the blood of both Misha and Ela. She'd been killed right there in that car. Make it make sense any other way. You can't. And once all that was on the table, Kirkland switched his story up again. Now he wanted everybody to believe Misha did it herself, that she had a gun, fumbled it while they were arguing, and accidentally shot her own daughter twice and then herself. That's what he wanted you to believe. But then why hide the bodies? Why the tarp, the secluded spot, the searches for somewhere to bury a gun? And how do you explain that it looked almost exactly one day like Curtis Urquhart back in Arkansas? Shot in the head, dumped in a ditch. I said what I said. In the end, Kirkland Warren had nowhere left to run. He pleaded guilty to murdering Misha and Ela. On the assault of that little girl, he entered an Alford plea, which let him claim innocence while it counted as guilty for sentencing. He was sentenced to life in prison. He also pleaded guilty to the murder of Curtis Urquhart, and that sentence runs alongside the life term. And his wife, Moni, she pleaded guilty to theft and attempted identity theft. Got 2 years probation. Hundreds of people came out to Esther Short Park to honor Misha and Ela. Ila's own classmates stood there, little kids, saying goodbye to their friend. And the family. They're not looking for closure because there isn't any. They want answers about how this man was free in the first place. A murder charge open in Arkansas, and they still gave him bail here. A 31 on a danger scale of 18, and they still let him walk with no monitor. The family said it plain. DV has never really been taken seriously. The restraining orders are false security blankets. And Ila's mother, Misha's own mother, carries it every single day. In her words, "Every day I wake up with the pain, knowing that my little girl will never grow up. A young mama, a 6-year-old who loved cats and trusted the wrong man. Gone. Not because nobody saw it coming, but because everybody did, and the door kept getting opened anyway. So I'll leave you with the question her family is still asking. Why was this man ever free to do it?" That's the story of Misha and Ela Melendez. What do you think? Could this have been stopped? If you or someone you know is in a domestic violence situation, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-SAFE. You can call or text. It could save a life. If this story made you angry about the bail system, comment "justice" below. And if you want me to cover more cases where the system failed, do me a favor, like this video, and subscribe to Beyond Dark Cases, where we give a voice to the forgotten and the recent, the unsolved, the unanswered, the ones that still don't sit right. Take care of each other out there, and we'll see you on the next one.